Hello, we're going to be finishing off our work on fractions, decimals and percentages this week. Today, I mean. Hello, we're going to finish our work off on changing between fractions, decimals and percentages today. And then next week, we're going to go into ordering decimals and fractions and percentages. Okay, so just to start with then, we've got 3 starters here. So if you know what you're doing, just pause the video and then look at the answers. Otherwise, stick around. So I'm going to go through these quite quickly today. So remember what we're doing is leaving the whole numbers as they are. We're changing the fractions to a common denominator. And then we add the whole numbers and we add the fractions and then we simplify. Okay, if you need more work on this, look back at the video where we did adding and subtracting fractions. Okay, the next one. We need to change into mixed numbers first. So that'll give us 27 over 4 times 16 over 3. Then we can simplify across our multiplication sign because we don't want to be working out 27 times 16 if we can help it. So looking at the 4 times table, we've got 4 there and 1 there. And looking at the 3 times table, we've got 9 here and 1 here. So altogether, we've got 36 over 1, and we can just write that as 36. Because remember, the value of a fraction is the top divided by the bottom. So 36 divided by 1 is 36. Okay, and the last one. Again, like with the addition, we create equivalent fractions, leaving the whole numbers as they are. So that gives us 4 and minus 1/15. So that's 3 and 14/15. Okay, so like I say, I've gone a bit quick there. If you need a bit of extra help, look back at the videos or give me a shout. Okay, and today we're changing percentages into decimals and fractions. So we're going to just whiz through this, to be honest. So changing decimals to percentages. So 0.4 means 4/10. Okay, remember 1/10 is 10%. So 0.4 is 40%. And what we do when we're changing a decimal into a percentage, all you do is multiply it by 100. Okay, 0.09 times 100 is 9. We've got 26%. Times this one by 100. Remember, you're moving 2 places to the left, so the 5 now goes in front of the decimal point. Give you 5.3%. Multiplying by 100, this 0 now goes in front of the decimal point, so it's 0.7%. Be careful when you're doing whole numbers, changing into percentages, because if you've got more than a whole one, you've got more than 100%. So multiplying 2.6 by 100 gives you 260%. And likewise, when we multiply this 10.5 by 100, you get 1050%. Okay, so the rule there is just times by 100 when you're changing decimals into a percentage. So that must mean that if you're changing a percentage into a decimal, you're doing the opposite. You're dividing by 100, and we've looked at this when we've been doing our work on percentages anyway. So dividing each one of these by 100. So remember, in 45, the decimal point is at the end. So divided by 100, moving 2 places to the right, 0.45. Moving 2 places to the right gives you 0.20, but of course you don't need the second 0. And notice the difference between 20% and 2% when they're written as a decimal. 3.9%, so divided by 100. So divided by 10 would put the 3 on the right of the decimal point. So moving it 1 further place makes it 0.039. Got to be careful with the zeros in this one. So we're moving 2 further places to the right, which means we've got 2 extra zeros in there. So remember what we said about 150%, that if it's more than 100, then you've got more than a whole one. So dividing by 100 gives you 1.5. And dividing 244 by 100 gives you 2.44. Okay, so changing a percentage into a decimal, you're just dividing by 100. Next, we're changing fractions into percentages. Now, we've already covered how to change a fraction into a decimal, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to change to a decimal first and then change into a percentage. So 1 divided by 8. So 8 into 1 doesn't go, carry the 1. 8 into 10 goes once, remainder 2. 8 into 20 goes twice, remainder 4. And 8 into 40 goes 5 times. So we're changing 0.125 into a percentage. So we're going to multiply by 100 for that, remember? So that will give us 12.5%. Okay, next one I'm going to do a bit further over so I'm not squashing up my writing. So we're doing 7 over 20. So 7 divided by 20. Okay, so 20 into 7 doesn't go. So we carry the 7. 20 into 70 goes 3 times. 3 20s are 60. So that leaves us with 10 left over. Just be really careful when you're carrying 10 that you don't then go how many 20s are in 10. It's how many 20s are in 100. So that would be 5. Okay, so I've got 0.35. Multiply it by 100 to get it as a percentage. So it's 35%. Okay. Then, changing percentages into a fraction. So what I want you to do with this one is change to a decimal first and then into a fraction in your head if you want to, or we can just divide, we can just say it's out of 100. Okay, so 44% means 44 out of 100, which we would have got if we changed it to a decimal first. Then remember it's 2 decimal places, so it's out of 100. So we just simplify now. 2 times table to start with, if you like. So that's 22, and that's 50. We're still 2 times table. 11 and 25. Okay, 65%. Divide by 5. That gives us 13. That gives us 20. Now, this one you've got to be a bit careful. 2.5%, so that would be 2.5 out of 100, but that looks a bit dodgy. We don't want decimals within fractions, okay? If we wrote 2.5% as a decimal, it would be 0.025. So what we're actually doing is going into the 3rd decimal place, so it's 25 out of 1,000, okay? So let's just go straight to dividing by 25. So there's 125 in 25. There's 4 25s in 100, so there must be 40 in 1,000. Okay. So really, that's all we need to do with changing between fractions, decimals and percentages, because we can do it all now. So do practice this. Give me a shout if there's anything you're not sure about. Remember, you've got the videos there to watch it in more detail. I've been a bit quick today. I thought since it was Friday, you maybe don't want a long video. So I will catch you next week for just finishing off our work on fractions, decimals and percentages. Have a good weekend.